Imagine a time before 1969, when the moon was just a distant, mysterious silver coin in the night sky. No one had ever visited. It was the stuff of legends and storybooks. The idea of traveling to space was pure fiction. Rockets were new, mostly used for war, and the universe felt impossibly vast. Communication was slow, letters took days, phones were rare, and news traveled by radio or black and white TV. The world felt bigger, full of unanswered questions about what lay beyond our atmosphere. Scientists were just beginning to dream of sending something into space. The moon was a symbol of the impossible, a beautiful ceiling no one could break through. Before the moon landing, Earth was our only home, and the sky was untouchable. The thought of stepping onto another world was revolutionary. Children gazed up in wonder, and astronomers studied the stars, but space travel was a fantasy. Airplanes were still a marvel, and crossing oceans by air was a big adventure. The universe was unknown, and humanity seemed small, firmly planted on Earth. News wasn't instant. You couldn't just see what was happening elsewhere with a click. Life was full of everyday wonders, but the wonder of space travel was just beginning to spark. Scientists started to think, maybe, just maybe, we could send something up there. But the moon? That was a giant leap for the imagination. Everything was about to change. After World War II, the world was divided between two superpowers, the United States and the Soviet Union. They had different ideas about how countries should be run and didn't trust each other. This rivalry, called the Cold War, wasn't fought with armies, but with competition and suspicion. Both sides built up powerful weapons, including atomic bombs, making the world nervous. The Cold War affected daily life. People feared spies, practiced bomb drills, and worried about secret plans. The US and Soviet Union tried to win allies and prove their way of life was best. It was a global contest with high stakes, and each side watched the other closely. The competition soon reached beyond Earth, aiming for the stars. Leaders wanted to show off their technology and power. This desire to be number one pushed both countries to attempt amazing, sometimes risky feats. The Cold War wasn't just about politics. It was about pride, fear, and the future. The playground for this rivalry would soon become outer space. The moon and stars became a new kind of battlefield, not for weapons, but for achievements. The world watched as the two giants prepared to race beyond Earth. The stakes were higher than ever. The space race was about to begin. The Cold War rivalry sparked a new competition, the space race. Both the US and the Soviet Union wanted to be first in space, to prove their superiority. They poured resources into rockets and spacecraft, pushing science and engineering to new limits. The Soviets shocked the world in 1957 by launching Sputnik 1, the first artificial satellite. Sputnik was a small metal ball that beeped as it orbited Earth, a symbol of Soviet achievement. Americans were stunned and worried. If the Soviets could launch satellites, what else could they do? The space race intensified overnight. The US scrambled to catch up, investing heavily in its own space program. The competition was no longer just about science. It was about national pride and security. Both sides raced to launch the first animal, then the first human. The quiet beep of Sputnik started a loud, thrilling chapter in history. Scientists and engineers worked around the clock, facing enormous challenges. Rockets had to be powerful and precise. Spacecraft had to keep people alive in the vacuum of space. The world watched, fascinated and anxious, as the race to the stars accelerated. The stakes were global, and the finish line was unknown. The dream of space travel was becoming real. The space race had truly begun. Sputnik's launch was a wake-up call for America, and the Soviets kept pushing forward. Just a month later, Sputnik 2 carried a dog named Laika into orbit, the first living creature to circle Earth. Laika's journey proved life could survive, at least briefly, in space. Then, in 1961, the Soviets achieved an even greater milestone. Yuri Gagarin became the first human in space. Gagarin orbited Earth in Vostok 1, seeing our planet as a blue sphere from above. His flight lasted just over an hour and made him a global hero. The Soviets were winning the space race, and the pressure on the US was intense. NASA scrambled to catch up, pushing scientists and engineers to new heights. The challenge was immense. The Soviets had the first satellite, the first animal, and now the first man in space. America needed a bold new goal to reclaim the lead. The world watched as the stakes grew higher. The race was about more than technology. It was about hope, fear, and the future. The US knew it had to do something spectacular. The next step would require vision, courage, and innovation. The moon became the new target. The space race was no longer just about orbiting Earth, it was about reaching another world. The countdown to the moon had begun. Determined not to be second, the US quickly sent Alan Shepard into space, but the Soviets still led. President John F. Kennedy set a bold new goal: land a man on the moon and return him safely before the decade ended. This challenge seemed impossible. No one knew how to do it, and the technology didn't exist yet. But Kennedy's vision inspired a nation and gave NASA a clear mission: the Apollo program. Thousands of people worked tirelessly, inventing new rockets, spacecraft, and life support systems. The Saturn V rocket, the most powerful ever built, was created to carry astronauts to the moon. There were setbacks and tragedies, like the Apollo 1 fire, but the dream endured. The moon was nearly 250,000 miles away, but the goal united the country. Scientists, engineers, and astronauts pushed the limits of what was possible. Every test, every failure brought them closer. The world watched as America prepared for its greatest adventure. The impossible was becoming possible. The race to the moon was on. The final challenge awaited. After years of effort, the moment arrived. July 16, 1969. The Saturn V rocket launched Apollo 11. Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin, and Michael Collins toured the moon. Millions watched as the rocket thundered into the sky. 3 days later, Armstrong and Aldrin descended in the lunar module Eagle, while Collins orbited above. Armstrong had to steer the Eagle to a safe landing in the Sea of Tranquility. On July 20th, Armstrong radioed, "Houston, Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed." Cheers erupted worldwide. Hours later, Armstrong stepped onto the moon, saying, "That's one small step for a man, one giant leap for mankind." Aldrin joined him. Together they explored, collected samples, and planted the American flag. For just over 2 hours, humans walked on another world. The world watched in awe as history was made. The impossible dream had come true. The moon was no longer out of reach. Humanity had taken its first step beyond Earth. The moon landing felt like a victory for all humanity. Over 650 million people watched Armstrong and Aldrin walk on the moon, the largest TV audience ever. Families and communities gathered around flickering screens, united in wonder. For a moment, Cold War divisions faded as the world shared in this achievement. Headlines screamed, "Man walks on moon." People everywhere talked about it, proud to be human. The moon, once distant and mysterious, now had human footprints. The astronauts described seeing Earth as a fragile blue marble in space. This new perspective, the overview effect, made many realize our planet's unity and fragility. The moon landing wasn't just about reaching another world, it changed how we saw our own. It inspired hope, pride, and a sense of global connection. The Apollo program did more than put footprints on the moon, it sparked a wave of innovation. To reach the moon, scientists invented new materials, computers, and life support systems. These breakthroughs led to everyday technologies, smaller computers, better electronics, and even freeze-dried food. Space-age materials found their way into firefighting gear and medical equipment. The moon rocks brought back revealed secrets about the moon's history and our solar system. Instruments left on the lunar surface sent back data for years. The moon landing inspired a generation to pursue science and engineering. It showed that bold dreams and hard work could overcome any challenge. The Apollo legacy lives on in today's technology and exploration. The moon landing expanded our horizons. It made us believe anything was possible. More than 50 years later, the moon landing remains one of humanity's greatest achievements. No one has returned since 1972, but those first footprints are still there, untouched. The legacy of Apollo lives on in space shuttles, the International Space Station, and robotic missions to distant worlds. The knowledge and technology gained paved the way for new discoveries and inspired dreams of Mars and beyond. The moon landing reminds us what we can achieve when united by a common goal. Seeing Earth from the moon, a single, fragile home, encouraged us to work together for a better future. The spirit of Apollo still inspires new generations to explore, discover, and dream big. The moon is no longer just a distant light. It's a place we've touched. The impossible became possible. The moon landing changed our relationship with the universe. It transformed science fiction into history. The courage and determination of those who made it happen continue to inspire us all. We keep looking up, dreaming of what's next.